Hey YouTube, it's Urgo, and today we're going to talk about these. This is the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive, the two VR headsets that are on the market right now, available with probably a little bit of a backlog in ordering and delivery fulfillment, but they're available right now for you guys to purchase. So I've been playing around with each of them for a couple of weeks now, and I wanted to give you my thoughts, pros and cons, and what I'd kind of recommend going forward. First up, let's talk about the Oculus Rift. Let me just show you what the headset looks like here. So on the front, you know, you got a very solid cover here, just nothing much going on with it. What I like is it does have these headphones built into it, right on each side, so no extra wires or anything like that to connect. The headset itself is, I mean, it's pretty solid. This goes in and out, not a problem. The straps are pretty strong on the top here. You can adjust them on all three sides. And it fits nice on your face. The one thing is, I don't know, I think this is by design on purpose, but there is a little bit of light that comes out of the nose area when you put it on, so you can sort of see your nose. And I did in a previous review, I can sort of peek out to see what's going on in the area. And it has some lens adjustments here also. The one really nice thing about it though also is you see there's only a single cable that comes out of it here, and you know, there's no other cables right around. On the other side of this cable, there's both a USB and a HDMI to plug into the computer. In comparison, this is the HTC Vive. It's a little bit of a smaller thing since all of this folds in here. The headset itself, I think, well, no, it's probably around the same size. On the front it has, I believe these are sensors all over the place here for motion tracking. There's an actual camera on here. The Oculus doesn't have the camera. And some things to change the lens distance also. Comparing with the cables, it has a whole bunch of cables. There's 3 cables that go out the back, I believe, in this huge wire, as well as a headphone cable here, so you can plug headphones in, because it does not have built-in headphones, which, on that note, I found really annoying because it just added more and more cables, having to plug headphones in here if you have headphones with long cables themselves. There's just a lot of cables going on. I did find a solution to that though, and when I'm wearing it, my wireless headset that I use on the computer already does fit on top of my head, on top of the headset. So it's a little bit bulky, but it works. So some of the other differences between the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive are how you control things. On the Oculus, it comes with this little remote control, which has a lot of basic controls you can do, you know, in a lot of games. If there's not a lot of action, you have like a select button, you have some back buttons, and this whole thing is motion sensing also, so you can do a lot of movement with this. And it also comes with an Xbox One controller, as well as a wireless interface, so this connects to your computer without any cables also, and you can use this to control games. On the HTC Vive, it actually comes with these 2 paddles instead, so you actually hold them in your hands and you can do all sorts of things with the paddles. On the paddle itself, again, sort of similar, it has this little trackpad on here. This whole thing moves. There's buttons everywhere, a button there, a button down there, as well as some buttons on the sides, and a trigger button here too. And then this is all motion sensors here. Now the reason that all the motion sensors work is on the HTC Vive, it actually has 2 of these things, which, if I back off, you can actually see one right over there. That's where it's hooked up. Bam! What they do is they shoot, I don't know the technical exact, but I think it's like infrared light that goes between them here, and it shoots off of you know, the headset and paddles and all of that, and it's able to do all the motion tracking for you. The Oculus does have one little motion tracking sensor here also, but not nearly as much as the Vive does. Oculus is supposed to be coming out with some paddles of sorts in the future. I think it's coming out in the fall, but they're not available yet. Now let's talk a little about the setup of each of these things. I will give Oculus major kudos in that it was a lot easier to set up the Oculus than it was to set up the HTC Vive. The Oculus, I basically just took everything out of the box, opened up their startup app on the computer, started plugging things in. I didn't even really need to read the directions. It all made pretty much sense. Just plug in some USB cables, HDMI cable, and good to go, basically. The only thing I had a slight issue with, which wasn't really a big deal, was just getting the Xbox controller paired, but again, not that big of a deal. Alternatively, the HTC Vive just, well, especially since it had, you know, these sensors, there was just so much more cables. I literally opened up the box, saw just how much was in there and put it down and walked away for an hour. Just, it was overwhelming how much stuff there was to set up. After I did actually go through and plug everything in, it wasn't that bad, but the issue that I ended up having was the little lighthouses, I believe is what these things are called. I had them, they have to be in alternative corners. So I have this over, as you see over in that corner there. When I originally set it up, I had it in the corner over there, and then, you know, on the other side of the room, I had it over there, and I basically, it wasn't working. It kept, when I ran the room setup thing, it kept making the virtual reality experience above my head. So, like, I'm in the world, and I'm down here, and everything's going on up there, and it was impossible to do anything. Like, I was going in one of the virtual worlds, and I'm stuck in the floor. It was to interact with other people, actually, and everyone's just up above my head, and I'm walking through the floor. So it was a really painful process to get it set up. I ended up having to run the room setup thing. So with the Oculus, there really is not much of a room setup since there's not full motion tracking yet, just that one sensor. But with the Vive, you actually take this controller and you go around the outside of your room and trace everything to show the Vive basically where you can go, because when you're inside the virtual experience, it even puts these little boundaries along the side so you don't walk into things like my desk. So anyway, I ran the room setup about 5 times before just getting frustrated. Every time I did it, I kept just, you know, going, taking a break after since it wasn't working. I ended up deciding to try moving the sensor from the corner on that side to that side, and, you know, on switch these two also. Since I did that, the virtual reality experience is now down, you know, I'm actually in it, not looking at it from below. Beyond that, talking about the software and interface between the Oculus and the Vive, I will say that the Oculus software is pretty nicely polished. I didn't have any major issues at all using the software. When you're in a game on the Oculus, you can press either the home button or the Xbox button here, and it returns you back to the home screen, and you can either readjust the display or quit the game, play a different game. You can do basically anything in there. And it works really well. I didn't really have any issues whatsoever using the Oculus software. That said, on the Vive, almost every single time I'm using it, there's some sort of software problem going on. The Vive, what it does is it actually uses Steam VR, to control the interface. And I found that there's a couple ways to load Steam VR. You can either load it directly from in your start menu, or you can load it from in Steam. And I found that loading it in Steam at least works more often than it does if you load it directly. So I've gotten used to doing it that way. But the issue that happens a lot of times is, you know, you load up Steam VR, it says everything's connected, you put on the headset, and what you do in there is you press this button right here to pull up the menu, and then the menu doesn't work. So you're stuck in this black box that just nothing's going on. And it's just really frustrating because I have to take the headset off, which on the headset, remember, I have to put my headphones on top. So I take the headphones off, I take the headset off, I put everything down, I go around to the computer. It's just really annoying. The other issue with the Vive is that the software crashes a lot. That's probably because a lot of the software is by third-party developers and not by either Valve, you know, Steam, or HTC. And a lot of the software, it gets into Steam so you can buy it or download it for free on there and use it, which is really great because there's a lot of selection there to choose from, which, by the way, the Vive games, you know, anything in Steam, you can play on the Oculus also, which is cool with that. But as a result, just so much crashes. Quite often I'm in a game and I try to launch it again through the menu is where you pick to launch something, and you pick it and nothing happens. And I go over to the computer and I see that it crashed and I have to close it, and I try it again and it crashes and I try it again, and just really frustrating. Or I might be in a game for a while and I'm playing and then just all of a sudden the thing crashes, and you can't actually quit out of things from on here. At least I haven't been able to figure out how to do it just yet. I think in general, one of the reasons why the Oculus software is so much more polished and the hardware is more polished is Oculus has gone through a lot of revisions, and I've actually followed along for a lot of it. So, like, I had one of the very first dev kits for the Oculus right here, and then they also had 2 iterations of the Samsung VR, which, you know, is the one that you can put one of your Galaxy phones in here, and it actually runs, you know, the same Oculus software. So since the Oculus has had a lot of revisions, their software is definitely a lot cleaner. The Vive, I don't think there ever was any public dev kits that they released, at least as far as I know. So this is really their first version that's gone out there, and you can kind of tell, since it's just so buggy. With all that being said, the question, which one of these should you get? Well, honestly, with all the problems of the Vive, I kind of like it the best. The field of vision, I don't know if that's the right word, but when you put this on your face, you can sort of see a little bit more in here. And just personally, at least, I felt it to be a more immersive experience wearing this than I did with the Oculus. I kind of would even recommend, if you're looking to get into this for the first time, to grab one of these Gear VRs, at least if you have one of the compatible Samsung phones. One of the most awesome parts about this is there's no wires at all. It might not be as high-res of an experience. It's pretty close to what these guys can do, and it just is so much cooler being able to, you know, not be tethered with a cable. So at the end of the day, do I think virtual reality is ready for wide release? If you're willing to work with some of these bugs right now and deal with this bleeding edge technology, and you have a super high powered computer, which I found that I tried running the Oculus originally. Well, it was running fine on my main computer, but there was an issue I ran into with not enough USB resources, which I didn't know was a thing, but apparently it is. I can't have both plugged in at the same time, so I was trying to try it on an older PC, even as old or new as just a couple years ago, and it wasn't powerful enough. So make sure that if you are going to get one of these, you do download the software. I believe both HTC and Oculus have software that can test your computer before you get it. Make sure your computer's powerful enough. And it is cool technology, don't get me wrong. I don't know if it is ready for prime time just yet, though. What I'm really scared of is that people are going to get these things, try them out, and the experience is just going to be frustrating more than rewarding. But if you do try one of these out, just know that yes, it is really cool, and it is a really awesome experience, but don't expect the Star Trek holodeck or, you know, just, there's limitations. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting, liking, and subscribing. Definitely let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on these, if you've tried them out personally, or if you've placed an order for these and you're just waiting for it to ship. I'll see you guys again next even day. Take care. This isn't actually on. I'm not doing anything.